Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. It's me, Rob Marsiglio, sales representative with Keller Williams Referred Urban. I'm out here in Durham Region helping the great people of this part of the province, but I'm doing my best to bring you weekly content on this channel covering all things Greater Toronto Area real estate. I'm getting a lot of questions about power of sales lately, so I wanted to touch on what is happening with power of sale numbers in the GTA. And then please stick with me to the end of the video because I want to cover a very important story, a very important verdict that just came out of the US that is going to have some big implications, potentially, on how real estate is done in the GTA and right across this country. Let's get right into these numbers, though, our power of sales numbers. So this chart is the number of new listings in the GTA, so that's Toronto, Durham, York, Peel, Halton, with the words power of sale or mortgage in the seller's name as per Treb Realm. There's no category for power of sale listing on Treb, so we're going to have to do our best using keywords and searches to deduce how many power of sales we are seeing. What is the instance of these power of sales? These numbers are more than likely underreported. They're definitely not overreported, but let's jump into these things. Now, here's a look at that trend going all the way back to January 2013. You can see that from 2013 to 2015, we kind of hovered in the 20 to, this is a bit of an outlier, June 2013, but 20 to 45 mentions of power of sale or mortgage in a seller's name that fell off as the market got a little hot in 2016, 2017. That's kind of the last time we saw a big jump in prices followed by a bit of a correction. You can see that when that correction was occurring, that really started around April of 2017. The number of power of sales and mortgage mentions in sellers' names did go up, fell off through the pandemic, and now they are back on the rise. Ever since this, right around now is the time of the first rate increase in this rate hiking cycle. So where am I pulling this 250% number from? It's right here. I've overlaid it with some numbers. So I highlighted April 2017, where there was 17 mentions of power of sale or mortgage, because this is when kind of the last mini market correction happened. We saw prices really come off in 2017 before the slow build through kind of 2018, 19, a little flat, and then when things really took off during the pandemic. So it took from April 17 to July 19, so just over 2 years, to reach kind of the peak in mentions of power of sale. I'd say that nothing too crazy happened until really 2020 when, rates were dropped all-time lows, credit was cheap. We may have actually kind of dodged a power of sale or mortgages staying at, kind of historically normal levels. They kind of came down. I think people were able to maybe get out of some bad decisions made in 2017 throughout the pandemic. So we saw those mentions really fall off. Then, like I said, from February 2022, where we had 14 mentions, this is when we started our rate hiking cycle. It's taken us until June of this year, 2023, to reach 49, a new height. So 14 to 49, that is where we're getting our 250% jump in mentions of power of sales. If I had used October 2021 as our baseline, where we only had 9 mentions, that's over a 400% jump in mentions of power of sales. And if we went from February 2022, the start of the rate hiking cycle, to right now, October, where I believe there was just over 40, it's maybe 42 mentions of power of sales, it's actually a 200% increase. So yes, the point in time that we choose to use really makes that number fluctuate. Bottom line, the number of power of sale listings coming to market are definitely increasing. And one more quick correlation to look at, we always like looking back to, this is orange line is the Bank of Canada rate. Kind of the pattern of power of sale mentions and mortgage mentions follows Bank of Canada rate as they were cut to lows through 2015, 16, 17. Mentions of power of sales and mortgage fell off. As those rates started to rise, so did the mentions. And again, same pattern here. We saw a drastic increase in rates in this last rate hiking cycle, as we're all well aware of. And that's where we've seen a more drastic, a more aggressive increase in the number of mentions of power of sale or mortgage in the seller's name, which again leads us to believe more power of sales coming to market. While the absolute number are increasing, not on a monthly basis, we still do see some fluctuation. The percentage of listings that are power of sale or mention the word mortgage in them, it's really not too crazy high out of historical norms. And here's what that chart looks like. It's this past month, it was 0.25% of all new listings that came to market mentioned power of sale or mortgage in the seller's name. So it's not a drastic portion of the market. If we were to look at active listings today, it's about 72 active listings out of just over 20,000. This is as of October 31st that had the word power of sale or mortgage in the seller's name. So if this number does continue to climb, that is definitely a sign of some stress in the market. Some people may be struggling to keep their homes, clearly struggling to keep their homes. You don't go power of sale without missing a couple mortgage payments. So again, does show some signs of stress. What I do want to stress to you though is that as a buyer, flocking to a power of sale or looking for power of sales does not mean you are necessarily going to get a deal for a couple of reasons. The first reason, like I just said, flocking to. In a market like right now, a lot of people are looking for power of sale, looking for foreclosures based on what we see in the States, where they're really fire sales of properties. The process is a little different south of the border. So if there's a ton of people looking at these power of sales or for power of sales property, that is maybe a little more competition. You're not getting a deal if you're in competition. The second reason that you're not necessarily going to get a deal is just because of how the proceeds are used to pay off debts in the power of sale process in Ontario. I took this from powerofsaleontario.ca. The sources are here at the bottom. You can see when a sale is completed, the money is received. Proceeds of the sale are paid out in the following order. Expenses incurred by the lender in selling the property are paid first. That includes realtor fees, lawyer fees, other related fees and expenses. Then you have the lender's principal and interest, and other sums to which the lender is entitled are next to be paid. Then if there are any funds left over from that, payments can be made to subsequent mortgagees, lien claimants, execution creditors in the priority that they were registered until all funds are exhausted. Now, if funds are not exhausted, then the balance goes to the former homeowner. And the reason you're not going to get a good deal is because in Ontario, it is the lender's obligation to get as close to market value and to cover as much of those expenses as possible. If they don't, they have the right to sue the previous homeowner for the difference in those expenses. So if they're going to sue that previous homeowner, they need to show that we did everything possible to get the most money possible for this property. That's the power of sale recap for the province. Again, things are trending in a direction, bringing us back to kind of what we've saw historically. I'd say the rate of increase of the mentions of those words, like I said, power of sale and mortgage, has happened a little quicker this time. It's just a trend we're going to have to keep our eyes on going forward. I promised you I'd get to a second story that I think is going to have some big implications on the real estate industry in this country. So let's hop into that quickly to wrap up the video. Here it is. I took this from realestatenews.com. The headline: jury sides with home sellers in commissions trial. So after less than 3 hours of deliberation, jury ruled for the plaintiffs in the landmark Sitzer Burnett trial, awarding nearly $1.8 billion to the plaintiffs. Here are the key points. So the Sitzer Burnett trial focused on whether a conspiracy was taking place to keep commission fees for buyers' agents inflated. While it only involves home sellers in Missouri, the trial has led to a national conversation on whether sellers should have to pay buyer agent commissions. An appeal is likely in this case, and other similar class action lawsuits are ongoing. And immediately following the verdict, the plaintiff's attorney, Michael Ketchmark, announced his intention to file a new nationwide suit naming additional defendants. So again, this happened down in the States. This happened down in Missouri. It was about 500,000 plaintiffs that are splitting the spoils of $1.8 billion. So if we don't take out lawyers' fees, it's about $3,600 per plaintiff there. Again, lawyers will take their fees out, so it'll probably come closer, somewhere in the 2000s that these plaintiffs are getting. But it does really strike this interesting conversation of conspiracy to elevate commission fees. Why is there this conspiracy? Well, the Canada case that is kind of being given the go-ahead to get started shows you an example of why that is. Now, this is from an article last month in stories.com, not last month actually, back in September, and price-fixing class action against TREB, CREA, and Toronto brokerages moving ahead. The proposed class action seeks to represent every person who has sold a residential property through the Toronto MLS since March 11th, 2010. Here are a couple key points. The case alleges that the real estate agencies entered into an illegal arrangement to inflate buyer brokerage commissions paid by sellers across the Greater Toronto Area, and that TREB and CREA aided and abetted the scheme. The lawsuit stems from rules that brokerages agree to when they join TREB and CREA, including that the seller on the Toronto MLS must pay a commission to their own brokerage, as well as that of the buyer, typically of 2.5% to each firm. So some firms do have it outlined that you do need to pay a buyer's agent 2.5% as a brokerage rule. TREB, CREA say that you need to offer compensation to a cooperating brokerage to list your property on the MLS. They don't say how much that needs to be. But again, this is just pretty much what it's trying to get at, is that should sellers be responsible for paying a buyer's agent to bring them a buyer? Is this inflating commissions across the province? That's what this whole lawsuit is going to get to the heart of. If this case that we just saw go down in Missouri, where the plaintiffs did end up winning, is any indication as to how things will go up here, probably something very similar, and it could really shake up the industry. I'd love to hear your comments down below, what you think about this trial, the result down in the States, what that's going to mean for the real estate market in Canada and the Greater Toronto area as well. Thanks so much for sticking with me for another video. If you have any questions about anything I covered today, all of my contact info is down in the description of this video. I look forward to having a chat with you. And until we speak again next time, please stay safe and cheers. Hey there, I really appreciate you watching this video all the way to the end. If you enjoyed it, I've got another video for you right here on the screen. And while you're here, maybe just click on my face, subscribe to. I don't want you to miss anything going forward.